Hello and welcome to my vintage Schumacher RC video. This is the Cougar 90 rear end. We are on the rear end and hubs. This is a hub T199 rear hub. I fitted the Schumacher bearings, which you have to buy extra for this model, and we are using the pivot pin to connect said hub to the wishbone. I know, it's awesome stuff, isn't it? Awesome stuff. One thing you got to make sure these pesky little pivot pins is that they're straight. They are quite, I think they're 2 mil. I think they're 2 mil. But anyway, they are quite strong, but they can bend. So if you've got a bent one, you will get friction or bad movement with your hub and your wishbone. So I'm just saying. So anyway, should we look at the fitment? Fitment is very straightforward. What you do, you line up your wishbone and your hub and you push it in. Push the pin in. So hopefully there's a little lug on the rear hub where the pivot pin locates. See, I'm just pushing it in now, but you have to push the pin in all the way. Reason being, if you don't push it in all the way, you can't click it in place. I'm just wishful thinking that I can push it in place, but because I've not pushed it in enough, mainly because there's a camera in the way and I can't see what I'm doing. So realistically, in real terms, all you got to do is push this pesky little pivot pin in. It's not hard. I suppose you could put a tiny bit of grease or oil or silicone grease on this pin, help it move. I suppose silicone would be better. But anyway, I keep my joints dry because this is a shelfie. So don't worry about that. That is a tiny bit of useless information. But anyway, the original models, if you bought one in the early 90s or 90, came with a, wait for it, a Lexan moulding. You had to cut these out yourself, because these are made for modelers, don't forget. And technically it is a dirt shield. It just slots in the rear hub like so, like that. Slots in there. It's very nicely designed actually by Mr. Cecil's team. The Lexan moulding shield. I've got one missing. I've inadvertently lost one, so fortunately I'll have to keep buying models to try and get one. But anyway, like I say, the early models came with the Lexan moulding. You had to cut yourself out. I think it was part of the body. Yeah, I think it was on the same sheet as the body. I can't remember. Unless it was separate, I can't remember. It's a long time ago, quite a while ago, a couple of years. But anyway, that's a very tidy little nugget of information. If anyone tries to sell you a 100% model from the 90s, ask them if it's got a Lexan moulding shield in the rear hub, and if they scratch their head and go, don't know what that is, then it's not fully original, is it? See, information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. When you're buying a second-hand model, that is. But anyway, let's get back to the build. These pesky drive shafts with these crucible universal jointy things that nobody likes fitting. They're not too bad actually, not too bad. I've got used to doing them, I suppose. I've got used to doing them. But anyway, say originality, get back to originality. these would have had brass. I keep calling them brass. I'm not sure if they are, but they are heavy. Bushers instead of bearings, and sleeves and bearings instead of bearings. So if you're talking about originality, then that would be an issue. Very debatable, very debatable, if your car's original with bearings, because it didn't come with bearings. But anyway, these are turnbuckles, and what do you call them? Rose joint assemblies on the end. This is a rose joint assembly. And you know why? Because it's made up of a rose joint socket and a rose joint ball. These are pesky little things to put on these balls. Getting the rose joint ball into the rose joint socket is tricky. You have to fiddle with your fingers. But anyway, because these are threaded, these rose joint assemblies, you don't have to mess around with a nut or lock nut or grub screw. All you have to do is turn your screw into your rose joint assembly. I know, it's that simple. It is that simple. You cannot get simpler than that. It is incredible, isn't it? It's incredible information, that is. So this is another original fitting part. Because if you look at the Club 10s, some of the Club 10s, the very, very cheap ones, they just had a plastic bar instead of this turnbuckle and rose joint assembly, where you couldn't adjust the camber on your model. So it was a straight black plastic bar that just clipped into ball joints. So they really did excel themselves on making entry-level models. But anyway, they're fitted. Those drive shafts are fitted to the hubs. And before we get the gearbox fitted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit the motor and the spur gear and the pinion, because it's a lot easier off the model, and because the gearbox is off the model, let's get it fitted. Anyway, if you watched my previous video on assembling the gearbox and assembling the gearbox, you would have noticed that I fitted the original bushers, not bearings, bushers, because I wanted to show the viewer what the original gearbox would have looked like with the bushers. But because when I bought my model it came with bushers, I did run it with bushers and not bearings for a couple of weeks before I got the monies to put the bearings in. So this is why I put the bearings in, because it's how I had the model in the early 90s. But anyway, Gold Rush motor. I'm not sure. Be interested if anyone knows. Put it in the comments when the Gold Rush motor first came out, because it's the Gold Rush it's in the Top Cat manual, and the Top Cat came out in '88, so they would have printed the manual '87. So the Gold Rush motor is very early. I've got a Gold Nova in my Cougar 2. I can date that at 93 because it's in a magazine being advertised as being new. But the Gold Rush, it's got to be mid-80s. But anyway. So spur gear, pinion gear fitted. The spur gear is 95 standard. I can't put a number on the pinion gear. Can't remember, but there's many variations you can go with. But at the moment, I'm just locating the 2 holes that allow you to slide the motor in and out to get a nice mesh. You need a nice mesh with your pinion and your spur, otherwise you'll rip them to bits. I've bought a few second-hand models in my time, and the spur gears have been grooved because the pinion's been too close. But anyway, I've got used to doing this, so I'm using two special sensors. I'm using eyes and ears. Reason being, there's a certain sound the spur gear makes if the pinion gear is too close. So I'm using my previous knowledge. You can use a bit of paper. Some people use tissue paper to slot it in between so they get the gap right. I just use my sensors, and it's just practice really. Just practice makes perfect. And luckily with this one, it just slotted in straight away. Can't believe that. That's gone in straight away. Perfect. But that's all it comes down to is not getting it too close. I would, if you're not had much experience and you want to like get it right, just use a bit of paper in between spur and pinion. If you don't shred the paper, then it's a nice fit. If you can pull the paper out and the spur and the pinion spin without ripping it, then you're okay. I was just lucky that I got this first time. Not always on camera first time, but I was very, very lucky. But anyway, that's done. To be fair, the motor could do with some work on it, but at the moment I've fitted it. Spur gear cover, oh, nice and original. Don't see many of those. Don't see many of them. Anyway, let's get this gearbox fitted. Once we've got this gearbox fitted, there is not much left. Not much left at all, actually. Not much left at all. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had a Cougar 2 works? Those metal drive shafts would fly off the shelves. I'm sure they would fly off the shelves. If you can get some metal drive shafts for your Cougar, that'd be a nice modification. Very, very nice. Anyway, let's get back to this. Gearbox in position. Free movement on the drive shaft indicates we're all go to screw it on. So let's get into it. Let's get it done. There's really not much left to this model, not much left at all. So let's think. Once these screws are fitted to the bulkhead, let's have a refresh. This bulkhead, which is unique to the Top Cat and Cougar, is part number T237. You'll notice it's slightly different, that bulkhead, to your classic, because the bottom of it is the same as the Cougar 2 bulkhead. It's like it's been merged, that bulkhead. They're the new ones. It's like got the original Cougar top bit and the battery slot for the Cougar 2. But anyway, sorry. Let's get back to these pesky rose joint assemblies. So, because I think these rose joint assemblies and turnbuckles make it very, very, very easy to, you're talking like one screw to get your drive shaft out, which is quite good, and one turn to adjust your camber, which is very good. I really don't like the new turnbuckles because they're tiny. You know where you put your spanner to adjust them, they're tiny. These ones were chunky. Very, very chunky. Made it very, very easy to adjust your car, like one turn with spanner. easy peasy. Nowadays, the spanner's tiny, turnbuckle's tiny. But anyway, so after the gearbox is fitted, let's just think what we've got left. We've got the top wing mount, which we've got the top wing mount which holds your rear suspension in place. This is why the rear suspension is not on yet, because the top wing mount is where it screws onto. But anyway, so we're getting very, very close to the end of this video now, because we're not going to get it too long. We're going to shorten it to just putting the gearbox on and hubs, mainly because these videos, I don't like them too long. So next video will be fitting the rear suspension, fitting the wing mount, and I think I might start fitting some electronics as well. We are going to go, some people might call it retro electronics. I call it electronics I used back then. So we're going to go for original electronics in this model. Very, very difficult to date original electronics. I used the ACOM's Techniplus in mine. The Techniplus had the lights on and the little voltage indicator, but we'll get to that when we put it in. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and laters.